Okay, everybody, here is my brew house. Yes, it is my garage, and I set up a folding table because there's drainage, there's water, there's places to store all my stuff. This is my brew pot slash mash tun slash everything. It's my brew in a bag system, built from a keg. Put an insulated sleeve on it. This is my PEX plastic tubing that I use to measure my water, and as you can see right about there, I don't know if you can see it, but I'm at 31.5 liters for today's blonde ale. Okay, this is the inside. Now, I just rinsed this out, cleaned it out, and then there's a speck of something out there. I'll get it out later. Anyway, there is my low watt density element, my pickup tube, and my what do you call it? It's where my thermometer goes. Anyway, that's how it all goes. So the sensor goes right into there. I do have a tube that I'll sanitize so I can go straight to my fermenter from here. Okay. Now I started building a hop blocker because I was thinking about using whole hops. But to be honest with you, I mean, I started going through the project, and I started thinking to myself, you know, that the little bags, my hop bags are good enough. I still might explore it later. Anyway, I have a PID controller that I've set up with a few computer fans, and it works fairly well. I turned it on today, right now, because it's time to prepare my strike water. So I need to plug it in first. Excuse me. There we go. Okay. There we go. The hum of success. Well, it's 9 degrees outside, so let me get my thermocouple into my sensor into there, and let me set this for 68 degrees. Once this gets to, the water gets to 68, the entire mash tun, because it's metal and it's all connected, is 68 as well. So I don't really need to adjust for the mash tun. I know I should change the figures, so I'm changing this to 6 automatically, but oh well. There we go. And set. And there it goes. You can't tell, but I can see that it's beginning to ripple. Maybe you can see it there in between the elements, right about there. And there's the hum of the heater. There we go. So we're on our way, preparing our strike water. Next, the grains. All right, so I'm at 68 degrees, so I just dropped it down a degree so I don't overshoot it too much. So it's already at our temperature. Now, because it's very, very well insulated, I can actually just turn this off at this point just to save energy. It really doesn't lose much heat at all. So I have an insulated lid that I created, and so that's going to keep everything nice and warm. Now I'll just monitor this through the mash, but usually the way that it's set up right now, it doesn't lose hardly anything at all during a 90-minute mash, but I'll turn it on every, say, 30 minutes or 20 minutes just to check on it, and if it needs a boost, then it's kind of cold today, so it might lose a little more than usual, but I'll just kick that on and raise the degree. I'd rather start low and work my way up rather than mash in and have it overshoot what I really want. So anyway, Oh, I forgot to mention, the way that I mill my grains, I don't have a grain mill. So I'm going to use this and get some water from here, and I'll show you what I'll do with it in just a minute. Time to mill my grains here. This is my bag that I sew. This was a sheer curtain that I got from the fabric store. This is a shutter, a nylon cord for opening and closing shutters, and I used it to reinforce the bag, so it goes along the entire seam to support the weight of the grains. Okay, so you're probably wondering, why did I get some of my strike water? Well, this happened by a happy accident. I used to order milled grains, and they sent me whole grains once. I was like, well, you know, what am I going to do with it? I wanted to brew. I could have sent it back, and they would have paid for the shipping and all that, but I decided it wasn't worth the hassle and waiting for another brew day. So what I do is I slightly moisten the whole grains, right? And this is a big fat super blender. It goes at 15,000 RPMs. It can actually turn this into a fine powder. I mean, I make powdered sugar in this. That's how strong this thing is. So I don't want powdered malt, so I can set it down to a lower setting like 5 or 6. But if I moisten the grains first, it softens the outside husk. That's my son in the background. And then that way, when I actually mill it through this, it crushes the kernel, but the husk falls off and assists with the filtering. Okay, anyway, I'll show you how that works. First, I'm just going to pour a little bit of water in here, because I don't want to screw up my volumes. I use some of my own mash water. It already smells like a mash. It smells great. So this will, of course, absorb. And now I can let that sit just for a second. And I can start my milling. Okay, let's get some of these in. I don't want to overload it. I'm trying to do this one-handed. Okay. See how it's going. See if you can see this. It's out of focus. There we go. Okay, what it looks like whole kernels, but it's not. It's actually, you can see the husk. It looks like a whole kernel, but it's actually just the husk that stayed behind, and the grains themselves are crushed. You see? So what I'd like to do is get it just a little finer, because it is brew in a bag. There we go. Now it's out of focus, but you could probably, let me just see if we can get it in there. There we go. So you could probably see the husks are whole, and the grain itself is now crushed. Now I could get it finer than this, but you can see from the powder on the tips of my finger that quite a bit of it is fairly fine. So it is a mix of you know, nice fine grist and crushed kernels. But all these are whole husks. They stayed pretty whole because they were moistened first, so they didn't turn into powder. Anyway, that's how I do it, and I'm gonna put it into my bag. All right, here's the end result of my crushing, well, my blending, I should say. As you can see, it's all fairly well crushed. Some of it's very, very fine, and others are just normally crushed. There's a lot of holes. You see the holes here. They look like whole grains. And that was all done with my blender. Now, I'll dough in. Okay, so I'm ready to dough in and get everything ready. My water's hot and it's at 68 degrees. I want to hold the 66, so I think it'll drop around to 66 or 65, but that's fine. I don't want it to overshoot. I'd rather bring the temperature up, as I mentioned earlier. This blonde ale is a recipe based off of Homebrew 62. His recipe that he had recently that he considered one of the most drinkable beers he had in 2015. Sounded good enough for me. I was going to do a brown ale, but my package from Brouwland in Belgium was returned. Don't know why. It came halfway here and then it turned around and went back to the shop. And since they don't open until tomorrow, I'll never know why until they find out. But that had some important stuff for a brown ale that I was going to do, and that brown ale I'll do on the next video. And that was a recipe that was kindly supplied by Alex Rock from Rock on Beer blog. You can see a link to everybody's mentions below. Now I adjusted this blonde ale recipe just a little bit because I wanted to try something new. I've been reading a lot about mash hopping and first wort hopping and how they contribute to the beer as if you were to do it in the secondary, as if you were dry hopping. That somehow the temperatures that you mash hop in or first wort hop preserve the aromas and the flavor of the hops. And I'm not sure if that's how accurate that is, but I wanted to give it a go. So what I'm doing is I'm putting 10 grams of Perle. I'm just using all Perle for this because I didn't have the Hallertau that I was looking for, so I substituted with Perle. So 10 grams are going to go into the mash / first wort. Because I'm doing brew in a bag, I'm just going to put the hops below. And then I'm doing a 60-minute addition of 8 grams of Perle, and then a 15-minute of 10 grams of Perle. And that's about it. So it's a simple brew day. Let's get this going. I'm completely out of beer except for one that's sitting in my fridge right now. It's my last homebrew. Let's get going.
It's not right when I do it. It always feels just fine.
Now my sensor says that it's 65. And I'm just confirming that with the glass thermometer. Well, it's 65 and a half. So this doesn't read half temperatures. Which is fine because, like I said, I want to hold a 66, so I'm going to put the grains in there and raise it. Now, if you ever watch people underlet, I'm doing a technique where I'm lowering the grain bag in slowly and to act sort of like an underlet. And I've done that a few times now with brew in a bag, and I haven't had any dough balls. So go figure. There may be something to that. First in is my 10 grams of Perle. I put them in these bags. this little support in, so when I put my chiller in, it doesn't push down on my heating element. Turn the bag inside out to indicate my 60-minute edition, and kept the seam inside on my 15-minute edition because I wanted to make sure I kept them straight.
It makes it difficult to choose. It's such a threat. Why don't you wash it on the slide? It's not important to me. You already got one at 10. If I see you out alone, I'll have to take you back to church again. It's not right when I do it. It always feels just fine. It's not right when I do it. It's gonna feel just fine. It's not right when I do it. It always feels just fine.
No dough balls. Nothing. It's a fairly light grain dough. And because I'm doing a brew in a bag, I'm also doing full volume mash. So I'm not going to be sparging this. And it actually works out pretty well. If you watch my previous video, my stir stick here is a PEX tube that's just the same as my gauge for my liquid levels. And this is what I use to aerate my wort at the very end as well, because I usually have it in the boil and it's fairly well sterilized by then. But this is going to be a very, very light blonde. Okay, let me show you what it looks like. Okay, as you can see, it's very, very light. It looks almost white, kind of like the wit beer that I made before. That's in there, so next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to insulate it. I cut out this piece of insulation. It's the same insulation that you see on the outside of my bag. So I put that on top, it just floats. And then I monitor my temperature by putting that on there. And then put the lid on. Voila. Okay, so I'm going to let this sit. I'm going to bring the temperature up to, actually it's already at 66. So just check. I don't know if you can see that. It's at 66. see you when the time comes. Just a quick reminder to everybody to please calibrate your refractometer before you begin. This was showing at 2 when there's just water in here, just plain distilled water. And so I just used the calibrating screw and brought it back down to 0, but don't forget to do this before you start your day. Anything can bring it out of alignment. Okay, here we are. Just about an hour and 20 minutes have passed. I'm doing my mash out, 76 degrees. Shot up to 69 already. You can see the nice steam coming off. So, actually, 69, 70 degrees now. Now having the heating element directly under this really helps because it really brings it in quickly. Now, because you're not with a cooler, you don't necessarily Vorloff, but I still do. I still do it because it recirculates the heated water below on top of it. I don't have a pump. I really haven't felt the need for a pump, but you know, I just sparge out with the actual liquor that's in here, the actual wort. So I'll take this bag out, I'll put it on a strainer, and then I'll just, you know, get maybe 3, 4, 5 liters of the wort over the top. That way any cloudy bits or, you know, what have you will get caught up in the grain bed and not end up in my final wort. Not like it really matters to me either way, but it just makes it a little bit cleaner. Anyway, let's wait until this is done and then we'll begin the boil. Okay, so I'm about to rinse my grains. I'm not sparging. I thought I was going to sparge, but after adding just a little bit of water, my pre-boil gravity is what I want it to be. So you can see I have a strainer in there. I have my bag in there. But why does it look like I'm sparging? Well, the reason is because there's like floury type of bits that are in my wort, and if I pass it through there, they get caught up in the grain bed and it comes out a bit clearer. I'm not really worried about sparging, you know, because this was a full volume mash, so this has been sitting in the same water for a long time anyway, so there's no need to rinse the grain. I'm just using the bag as a filter for the smaller bits. Alright, see you at the boil. So, almost at a boil. See all the hot break material rising to the top, coagulated proteins. Almost there. Well, this is the reason why I'm having a brew day today. This is my last pale ale. And after this, I've got no more home brew. See? I don't know if you can see it, but it's crystal clear. Yeah, baby. Well, and the boil, I chilled it down to what says 26. I took a reading coming out of here and it's 23. It's pitchable, but yeah, it's fine. It's alright. Cleared up quite a bit. Helps that I have the hot bags in, which contain all of that. I'm slowly draining, that way the cold break and hot break doesn't take that up. Now here you could see some of the Irish moss, but I figured if I slowly drain it, it won't get too much crap. And I'm trying something new. So Homebrew 62 put his wort in 1, inside of a bag and then lifted the bag out, and just in case there's anything accumulated, maybe this will be fine enough to strain that out and leave my wort a little clearer. I don't know. Thought I'd try it and see what happens. Well, it's pretty much the end of brew day. You all know what happens next is I pitch the yeast after aerating my wort. There's the fermenter with iodophor inside, and that's it. We'll see what happens next, and maybe I'll do a video of the tasting.